Let's get into a couple other things here. We just got into the Big 12 and broke down the craziness that is that conference right about now, but let's get into a couple other things. We'll do a little bit of a top 25 roundup here, and we'll start with the team that in the SEC that actually handled some business on Saturday, which was Texas at home against Kentucky. They win this game 31-14, and I thought this one was going to be one that I'd be talking about a little bit more. But then everything else happened, and it became a very, very minor story. Now, the big story from this game was we did get an injury to Quinn Ewers on a run when he was trying to get a first down, got kind of rolled up on from behind, and that ankle looked very tender really throughout the rest of the game. It sounds like the MRI came back. It's just a mild ankle sprain. Should be back for the A&M game. Should be close to 100%. How close, I don't know, and definitely could be a difference in this game, but especially for a guy that struggles with mobility, yet another hit to that. So it's definitely going to be interesting to watch that unfold, and definitely a really tough hit to this offense. He did play the rest of the game, but there was a lot of running the ball. In fact, there was a touchdown drive that put this one away where they went 15 plays, 15 rushes, and a touchdown. So that's the other part of this, kind of the flip side, the really good side of the offensive part of the game. The defense was incredible. They're always incredible. They forced 2 turnovers. They had 6 sacks. They had 9 tackles for loss. The Texas defense is absolutely ridiculous. But on the offensive side of the ball, the thing that they've been trying to find for the last really the entire year and feels like it's starting to come into fruition is the run game. Besides the fumble issues in the third, which were really weird, really on both teams. Everyone was just losing the ball in the third quarter. I don't know what was on the balls, but at the end of the day, hopefully that is not a big issue for Texas going forward. But they did roll for 251 total rushing yards, 5.5 yards per carry. You had Trey Wisner went for 158 on 26 carries, the game-sealing drive, as we talked about, 15 runs, 0 passes. If they can tap into that, if they can get more of that throughout the rest of the season, this might be a team that's starting to find their stride offensively. And then Penn State, another one that I probably thought I would be talking about a little bit more, but they actually survived their upset alert as opposed to a number of other teams. They were able to get through it, and the fake punt was one of the most insane and one of the best calls that I've ever seen from James Franklin. It was a call that I can't fathom that James Franklin made. I'll be totally honest with you. I did not think that he would ever make a call like that, but it was the perfect time in the perfect game in the perfect execution. Everything was absolutely perfect because Minnesota, you have just enough time left to where they're probably going to punt it away. They got the timeouts. They're not super worried. They're playing really good defense. That's what they're thinking on that sideline. A perfect game where not a lot of things are going offensively for you. So they're thinking, okay, they trust their defense just a little bit more. And then the perfect execution. You got the tight end off the outside side, and he went going. It was really, really impressive to watch and kind of put this game away. And then just went for 4th and 1 down towards the goal line just to put it away. And it was really, really impressive to watch. And I think gave me a little bit more confidence in what James Franklin can do in these big games. Obviously not the biggest game in the world, but down the stretch when he needed the play to be made, he trusted his guys to make the play. And I think that's a really important thing and definitely add some confidence into that room. But Penn State survives this week. Plenty as far as I'm concerned. With all the different things going on, I'm more than happy if you just win the game. Now it's just Maryland standing in the way of them in a home CFP game. They're in a really, really good spot, and maybe they could even lose, but I wouldn't even tempt that fate. I would just go on and win, beat Maryland, and possibly find your way into a host position for the CFP. Then you do have this game. Notre Dame was able to make this one ugly, and I wish it wasn't, but it was very ugly. Pretty much from the jump, it was a totally different ball game that Army was playing, and I think we all knew that, but I think a lot of us were holding on to hope that they would be able to figure it out. Bryson Daly did grind for over 100 yards rushing and 2 scores, but that was about it for the Army offense pretty much for the entire day. Notre Dame is just one of those teams, they know exactly who they are, and they know exactly how they want to execute it. And in a year with so many teams that are trying to figure that out week to week, that's pretty valuable. It's going to be really interesting to see what this team can do. And what they do is run Jeremiah Love. 7 carries, 130 yards, 2 scores, and a receiving score. The kid is special in every sense of the word. He's one of those guys that I cannot for the life of me figure out why we are not talking about him more, but one of the best athletes, one of the best running backs, and one of those guys that if he was draft eligible this year, I would want my team to draft him. He is so good, but he is a sophomore. So we'll get one more year of him, and then we'll see what happens. But remarkable stuff from Notre Dame. They handle business, keep moving on to USC next week. Still need to win that one. And then for Army, I still think you're in it. You do need a Boise State loss, and then you need to win out and possibly get a little bit of a lean over UNLV. But you're still very much in this race if you win out and beat Tulane in the AAC championship. Oh, excuse me. Then you do have Wake Forest, Miami. A little bit more of a straightforward game. There was a moment where it felt like Miami was going to play their game, was going to play that game where they played really, really ugly for the first half and had to claw out a win, and that's kind of what happened. They did kind of put it on them in the fourth quarter, make this one look a little bit better than it was, but the good news coming out of this one was the defense was a huge reason why this game went the way that it did. You had a pick six from Mish Powell, which was huge early on in this game, and then only gave up 7 points defensively total. They were really, really incredible all over the field because they had a kick return from Wake Forest, so only 7 points given up defensively, very much what they needed, especially against a team where you probably should be able to do that, if I'm being totally honest. But a great performance from them against a team that they should dominate. They did dominate. So Miami holds course. It is Syracuse standing in between them and an ACC title berth. If they get it done, they are fully in the ACC title. And right now, it looks like that as long as SMU and Miami handle business this upcoming weekend, feels like the loser might be able to find their way into the CFP as well. So would be huge for them if they could at least find their way into Charlotte and avoid any craziness of trying to get an at-large bid from the ACC. So would be incredible to watch, and right now with the way the ACC is shaken out, feels like they're going to get two teams in, and it could be Miami and this team right here. SMU has officially punched their ticket to the ACC Championship in year one. Remarkable stuff from Rhett Lashley and the boys. They were really, really impressive. And the defense, as I talked about it when I was breaking down this game, I said the defense might just be a little bit mad from the performance they put on last week. They were very mad. They gave up less than 200 yards of total offense, had 9 sacks, had 12 tackles for loss. They were all over the place for the entirety of the game, and Virginia did their darndest, but there was just no openings on the offensive side of the ball. So a great performance from SMU, one that they very much needed, and I think just got more important because a 11-2 ACC team is very much in play. So that next game against Cal, I think you're in a really good spot where if you were to win that game, you might just ensure yourself a spot in the CFP, regardless of what happens in Charlotte. So all the talk about, I said last week, maybe this was a spot where they could rest some starters if they felt like they didn't have anything to gain. Now they have something to gain, a possible at-large bid after losing in the ACC championship. So I think they're going to play all out in that game. If they get that win, I think they're pretty firmly in the field. I'll be totally honest with you. Then we do have Boise State. They're actually number 12 in the country, but we do have Boise State. They survived yet again. This is a team that I become less and less enthused by the more and more I watch them, and it's nothing to do with how good this team is. It's nothing to do with the ceiling of this team. Ashton Jeanty's just hurt. He's just not playing at 100% by any means. He had an injury on his arm coming into this game. There were reports of an injury with his ankle coming into this game, and then he hurt his foot, and then he got a concussion in this game. He's getting battered in every which way. He probably has 4 or 5 injuries that he's dealing with right now, but he was able to come back late and just drag them to a win. When it was very, very ugly offense, they couldn't get anything going for pretty much any time that he was out of this game. He came back in and made a big-time play and really just kind of grinded out a win. So overall, 19 carries, 169 yards, and a score. That's just who he is at this point. Frankly, I don't think the Heisman race should be over by any means. I do think it is, to be totally fair, but I don't think it should be. I think this kid should be right there with Travis Hunter because what he's doing is just absolutely ridiculous. But they were able to survive, and that's kind of the important thing right now. Boise State is in the Mountain West Championship. They will host the Mountain West Championship. So it's going to be UNLV or Colorado State. I do believe if UNLV wins and Colorado State wins, it will be UNLV, but obviously something will break down in time, and definitely going to be interesting because they have Oregon State this upcoming weekend. They might be able to take a loss, but you're definitely towing a little bit of a line. With how closely the American and the Mountain West are kind of ranked right now, I would go ahead and get that win and just ensure no craziness happens before the Mountain West Championship. and the team they might face there, a team that got to watch all of the craziness unfold on Saturday because they were sitting on their couch. They handled their business on Friday night, and it was kind of a tale of two halves. Really struggled in the first half, including a safety on a punt, and then in the second half just kind of unloaded. The offense really got going. Jaden Thomas was the big story from this one. 26 carries, 135 yards and a score. Kylan James added 48 yards and another score. Really, really good stuff. And the pass game overall just struggled against a very solid San Jose State secondary. They just didn't quite get it going to the degree that you would want. But at the end of the day, they get the win, and I think for UNLV, very impressive stuff. Now, the most impressive thing of the entire game was shutting down Nick Nash. He had one catch for 9 yards, and what I would consider the Blitnikoff favorite as far as I'm concerned. A very, very talented player, and puts UNLV in a really great spot. The CFP berth is still technically alive, although I think it's a little bit far-fetched at this point. Still alive for that possible CFP berth, but also you're very much in a place for the Mountain West Championship. If you win next week, I believe you are in that dance, and you get another shot at the team that knocked you down earlier this year. And then you do have Illinois Rutgers. This might have been the ending of the week. Even with A&M Auburn, this somehow might have been the ending of the week because there was a timeout right before a missed 58-yard field goal. So one of those situations where you call the timeout, but the kicker says, I'm going to take my free one real quick. So he goes ahead and kicks it. He misses it. And now you got to figure out what you're going to do. So they take a timeout. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And what they decide to do in the craziest turn of events is they're just going to throw a pass. And they're not going to throw a deep ball. They're not going to throw a Hail Mary. They're going to throw just a crosser to about the 20-yard line. And then just let Pat Bryant do his thing. And boy, did he. There were about 5 defenders between him and the end zone. And he just kind of runs around them. It wasn't like he did anything special. It wasn't like he broke a ton of tackles. It wasn't like, he ran through people. He kind of just ran around him, and it was absolutely insane. It was a really special performance from Pat Bryant as well as Luke Altmaier. I mean, Altmaier went for over 300 total yards, had 3 scores, was really good running the ball in this game. And then Pat Bryant, 7 catches, 197 yards, 40 of them coming on that last play, and then that final touchdown. Really remarkable stuff, and a remarkably underrated duo in this 2024 has become one of the more fun quarterback-wide receiver duos in the country. So this doesn't do too much to the CFP picture. It does give a little bit of help to Penn State, gives them another quality win. There is chaos where Illinois slides in, but let's be honest, that's probably not happening. Really remarkable finish, and just a crazy finish among all the crazy finishes from this past weekend. But let's take our last break here as we are really running on time. Let's take our last break here. When we come back, we just got to do a quick whip around to all the other games. We had Bowling Green set themselves up in a good position in the MAC. We had Nebraska punch their ticket to the bowl game for a first time in a very long time. Oregon State won the Pac-2, and so many different things I want to break down for you right after this, so stick with us.